as I mentioned in the last talk, or the first talk that we had, I mentioned about how when we talk about upavasa, from the very term upavasa, we are not talking about just restricted eating or restricted diet alone, because upavasa, the term actually means final destination or ultimate journey. And when we talk about ultimate journey, we are talking about being established in our own self, in our own true nature. And so upavasa actually includes fasting at all levels of individuality, that is physical, what we call as kaya upavasa, and then which comes through primarily from restricted eating, and then vachika upavasa, which comes mainly deals with our senses and sensory impulses, um, the kind of sensory output that we have, what kind of impressions we bring from outside through our five sensory organs. Are they harmonious? Are they disharmonious? Because ultimately, the impressions that we bring from outside is how we will act and react as well. So we need to be conscious of that, at least on these 5 days. And then the last level of upavasa is manasa upavasa, which is fasting at the level of our mental disposition. That is, what kind of thoughts are arising in your mind. How is your mood? Uh, what kind of behavior, mental behavior, are you exhibiting? Are you actually consciously aware of all the dramas in the mind? Are you having a lot of negativity? Are you letting go of the negativity? Are you having a lot of judgmental opinions? Especially for us who are working, is there a lot of dramas going on at the workplace? And how are we acting to those dramas? How are we reacting to those dramas? And so upavasa or fasting here at the level of manasa upavasa would involve introspecting and consciously letting go or overcoming all these undesirable thoughts, because ultimately you don't want it to affect your mind, because once it affects the mind, it'll affect the way you act and react, which means then it'll affect your body as well. And by the way, this is very important, because remember one thing: at the level of the mind, whatever afflictions we have, whatever thought process goes on in the mind, whatever judgments we have, whatever dramas we have, whatever negativity we have, it'll ultimately reflect in the body, which means then it'll affect the way we eat. It'll reflect the way we digest our food. It'll affect the way we process our food ultimately. All right. And that is one reason I thought I'd bring it up here again, because there are people who said, we had problems digesting our food, even though we were supposed to be fasting. So, if you had problems with digesting the food, it means then you'll have to go back and check to see what exactly is happening at the level of the mind. And then when it came to eating, I said, there were several options that I gave you. And again, I said it is all individual. It's all individual based. So no two people can do the same thing, because each one of us will react the way we react, the way we act, the way our bodies are designed to. Okay, so for some of us, one meal a day is perfectly all right. Okay, and then for some of us, 2 meals a day is perfectly all right. Some of us will need to have 3 meals a day. Now, um, and we said we'll follow this on the Ekadashi day, and then on the Dvadasi, Trayodasi, Chaturdasi, followed by Amavasya. So we're actually looking at a 5-day period that we're doing this fasting. All right. And I also give the option of where you can mix and match. So maybe on the Ekadashi day, you decide to have one meal, fine. And then on Dvadasi, that is the second day, the third day, the fourth day, Dvadasi, Trayodasi, Chaturdashi, you can have maybe 3 meals. All right. And then Amavasya or Purnima, you can have just 2 meals. So you can mix and match. Okay. There's no hard and fast rule that what you do on Ekadashi day, you have to do that on the other 4 days as well. All right. And remember, the reason I said why, the reason why our forefathers put in this practice, okay, is mainly because on the Ekadashi day, followed by the 3 days and then followed by Amavasya Purnima, the gravitational effect of the moon on the earth is extremely strong. All right. And we said the sun, the moon, and the earth form what we call a trine. It's a position where it reflects the amount of sunlight as you observe from the earth. So it reflects from the moon. All right. And then the gravitational effects of it is very strong on the earth. And so because we are 75% fluid, if you notice our human bodies, where the way we are designed, we are 75% fluid. And so the effects of that is very strong on the fluidic aspects of us. Okay, and how will it show us? It'll show in the way we digest our food. It'll show the way we eat our food, and it'll also reflect on the way we harbor thoughts and moods in our mind. Okay, because these are all fluidic aspects. And so that's the reason why our ancestors and forefathers gave us a system, a program that involved restrictive eating. Okay, so that way what happens is, usually on Ekadashi day followed by the other 4 days, what happens is this: your digestion is sluggish, your elimination is sluggish, and you have sluggish thought patterns as well. The mood changes. It happens naturally for everybody because that's the effect of the moon on the earth. All right. And so that's the reason why our ancestors said, go easy on the food. They said, go easy on the mind, go easy on the thought process. All right. So that's the reason why we're bringing it here. Okay. So now 1 meal a day may not be applicable to everybody. Okay. So then, based on the Ekadashi that you performed last month, all right, you would have noticed what was good for you. Okay. Maybe 1 meal a day is not good. Okay. Then let's just do 2 meals. Maybe 2 meals is not good. Let's just do 3 meals. Now, here is where I would suggest that for all of us who had challenges, okay, if you are worried about 1 meal or 2 meals or 3 meals, just remember, basically what we're trying to do is we are trying to give a rest to the digestive system. We are trying to give a rest to our mind. Okay, so it's restrictive eating and thinking. So the mind and the body gets to rest. We are providing what we call respite to the body and the mind. Okay, so instead of indulging in and indulging in the eating phenomenon the way we normally eat, we are just trying to address that by lowering our intake. Okay, so when I'm talking about lowering our intake, when I'm saying 1 meal, 2 meals, or 3 meals, all I'm trying to say is, if you have a problem with the number of meals, my suggestion would be, just think about what you normally eat every day. Okay, your normal daily food habits. Okay, restrict that by 50%. All right, so you can still have 4 meals or 3 meals or 2 meals, but restrict the amount that you're eating, only because you want to give more rest to the digestive system. You're giving more rest to the mind as well. All right. And then we also talked about, both, in addition to restrictive eating, we are talking about manasa and vachika upavasa as well. So on these days, on these 5 days period, try to see how you can lead a moral and ethical life. Okay, try to use the right kind of speech, the right kind of words, the right kind of attitude. Try to be less negative in your moods. All right, try to notice, be aware. Actually, even if you can't, just be aware of what's happening in your mind. Try to look at that, reflect back on what exactly is happening. Am I feeling more moody, or am I having a lot of judgments? Can I bring it down? Okay, because fasting here actually refers to being consciously aware. Okay, even if you can't restrict it, at least be aware, think about it, and look back and say, aha, it was interesting. On those 5 days when I should have been a little more conscious, I should have been a little more positive, I was a little more negative. What could have been? So be aware of it. Okay, even if you're not able to control it, at least be aware of it. That way what happens is, it'll help you in dealing with it as you come to do um, the next few ekadashis. All right, so reflect on your present day living. All right, and then look to see what exactly are you doing in terms of your interactions with your spouse, with your kids, with your teammates. If you're a boss, with your teammates, with the people working for you, or if you yourself are reporting to another boss, how is your boss's behavior? How are you interacting with them? Okay, so all these play a very important role. In addition, the digital influence. All right, so that's again a lot of noise. That's a lot of noise that we have created for ourselves. Okay, so then what kind of an influence is it having on your mind? All right, so when I talk about digital influence, not just the phone, it's also all the other social media. All right, so for these 5 days, can you restrict the usage? Okay, or can you go easy on that? uh, And then, of course, I also gave another task to do on these 5 days. One of these 5 days, that is to engage in some kind of a selfless activity, because that actually helps to keep the mind in control. It helps to, be more calm. It allows us to be more positive. All right. So it's one way of restricting. So here, restriction would be restricting the negativity that kind of comes in our mind. All right. So that was the schedule. Okay. So now with that, let me address some of the few questions, and then I'll, in addition to that, if you have any more questions, I'll answer that also. So this was one question that was, I think, almost like 30 to 40% of people wrote to me about this. So can I do one meal on Ekadashi, 3 meals in the intermediate days, and 2 meals on Amavasya or Purnima? And the answer is yes, you can mix and match. So on Ekadashi, you can have one meal. On the second and the fourth day, second to fourth day, you can have 3 meals. And on the fifth day, which is Amavasya or Purnima, you can have 2 meals. Notice what works for you. Okay. And not necessarily, and you can even do like 2 meals on Ekadashi. So I'm just giving an example. Okay. Maybe, and in fact, I still remember in the first program last month, when I talked about this Ekadashi Upavasa, I said maybe one meal is not good for anybody for most of us. Okay. The reason being that we are not in the Himalayas. We are not retreated from our daily mundane life. Okay. So maybe one meal is not good for us. So on the Ekadashi, you can have 2 meals. And then the rest of the days have 3 meals. And then on Amavasya and Purnima, you can come back to 2 meals. Or if you think, no, 3 meals is fine, okay, have 3 meals on all the 5 days. That's fine. Then the question is, what are you restricting? You're only restricting the kind of snacking and nibbling that you normally have on other days. Okay, so even if you have 3 meals on all 5 days, fine. But notice whether you can curb or whether you can stop on the snacking or nibbling. So you're curbing the amount of intake there as well. Okay, so avoiding the snacking and nibblings helps. You're still doing a restrictive eating. Okay, now whatever be the kind of pattern that you have, whether it's 1 meal or 2 meals or 3 meals, some of the cardinal principles here are: try to keep a 3-hour gap between 2 meals. So let's say you've decided to have 2 meals, or let's say you've decided to have 3 meals. Try to keep a 3-hour window or 3-hour gap between two eating events. Okay, number one. Number two, try to keep a 3-hour gap between your last meal and sleep, a minimum 3-hour gap. Okay, so let's say you decided to have your supper at around second or a third meal at around 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. Then make sure that you have a 3-hour window before you go to sleep. Okay, and then irrespective of whether you have 2 meals or 3 meals, at least on these 5 days, see if you can wake up either before or by sunrise, right? And try to do some mind-based exercises, like, try to have either, or you can even engage in physical exercise. So maybe if you don't have to step out, if you have a yard, just walk in the yard, take in this amount of sunlight, work with the nature, be with the nature, or simple breath practices, pranayama practices, just inhaling and exhaling. You don't have to indulge in sophisticated pranayama practices, just being aware of the breath that you take in, and then being aware of the breath you exhale out. All right, 5-10 minutes, that's enough. 5-10 minutes of walk, gentle exercise, physical exercise, 5-10 minutes of pranayama practices, and try to engage in some kind of a mental exercise. Okay, some kind of either mantra meditation, or trying to learn a new language, or maybe trying to analyze some data, huge data sets. If for some of you who are data analysts, this is the best time for you to engage in some analyzing some huge data sets. That works the mind as well. So it's a mental exercise. All right. And if you have any addictions like coffee or tea or alcohol or tobacco or smoke or anything, don't avoid it, because I know that was another complaint, which would be one of the questions. I wouldn't suggest you to completely get rid of it, but if you have, let's say, three cups of coffee or chai in a day, try to restrict that to 2 cups, and then in the next couple of days later, maybe try to restrict to 1 cup. Don't avoid it altogether, because some of you may have health issues coming up with just withdrawing completely from those addictions. All right. And so the second question was, I'm missing on my morning coffee or evening chai. The mind was screaming all the time, and I ended with a headache. I did have it on the first day. I guess when they say I did have it on the first day, either a chai or a coffee, and then I felt guilty as I was cheating. Okay, so please remember, when we are talking about the fasting at the mental level, at the emotional level, you should not harbor any guilt feeling. Please don't feel guilty. We are not here to reward somebody for achieving something great. We are not here to award somebody. No, we are not trying to recognize anybody. It's about you. This is about you. It's about your journey. Okay. So don't even feel guilty. If you have had a chai, have a chai. No problems. Enjoy it. If you have had a coffee, enjoy it. Please have positive thoughts around that behavior. Okay. Don't feel guilty. Because remember, ultimately, the fasting process, whether it is physical fasting at the level of diet, whether it's fasting at the level of mind or emotion, it's all about being blissful and it's all about being consciously aware of your own body and mind. So please don't end up with a headache, because if you end up with a headache, then all you're doing is beating yourself. Okay, we don't want to engage in that, because the last thing I want from this fasting process is having any health issue. So don't try to even restrict to that extent where you have a headache. No. So have it. Have your chai, have your coffee, enjoy it, please. At the same time, please remember that this was set up not by me. It was set up by our ancestors, because they knew the effect. Okay, so be conscious. Okay, if you feel guilt, even slightest amount of guilt or something, just look back and say, aha, that's great. Why should I feel guilty? Okay, so try to talk to your mind. So be conscious of all the dramas that come up in your mind. Be aware of the noise. Okay, and at the same time, be happy. The very fact that you felt guilty, it meant that you looked at yourself and said, huh, I shouldn't be doing something that I was doing. Okay, so recognize those addictions. So be consciously aware and try to either work with it by doing what the body wants, what the mind wants. At the same time, see if you can, you know instead of overcoming it completely, try to see if you can reduce it. Okay, don't do it cold turkey. Just gradually decrease it. So maybe on the first day have 2 cups of chai instead of 3, and the second day try to have 1 cup, or try to keep doing 2 cups, and then maybe on the Amavasya or Punima day try to have just 1 cup. Okay, so instead of feeling guilty or anything, be happy that you're very consciously aware of your screaming mind. That's another thing. How many of us are actually aware of our screaming mind? So the very fact that you're aware of the screaming mind, be happy about that. And please remember, this is a Ekadashi fasting Upavasa time. So there is absolutely no place for emotional turbulence. Okay, so don't feel any kind of emotions. Okay, it will keep you miserable, and we don't want that. All right. And then the third question was, can I have a fruit mixed salad as a meal? Absolutely. I know a lot of you enjoy having fruit, so please have one, bowl of fruits, mix your fruits. And that in itself is a great meal. So maybe, there was one question I don't think I have it here on the slide. There was one question that said, can I have it with my as a night meal, because then I feel light to go to bed? Absolutely. I think fruit salad is a great way to end your day. So have it like a meal. And by the way, a fruit bowl provides you with fiber, it provides you with minerals, it provides you with sugar, it provides you with essential nutrients. So it's actually a full meal in itself. So yeah, it's a great idea to have a fruit salad. All right. Then the next question was, I tried restricting the conversation with my team, but I also noticed that I was not able to control on the judgments and the mental criticism. Well, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist. Okay, but you know, let's look back, and if those criticisms came about in our mind, let's just be aware of it. And I for myself, and by the way, I'm not a guru, or I'm not a sage. I'm like any of you. So I'm also working with a team. Yes, I do have people working under me. I also report to somebody else. So whatever judgments, whatever mental dramas go in your mind, I also face that. But here is something that I would like for all of us to think about. If something like that comes about, be aware of it. Just being aware of those dramas in the mind, that in itself tells you that you are coming closer to your mind. Because in a lot of cases, what happens is, on a daily day-to-day basis, we have delineated the body from the mind. Okay, we think of it as independent entities. We don't think of it as one. Okay, and we need to maintain that oneness. We have to bring about in our mind. So, which means that we have to be aware of what goes on in our mind. So, if there are judgments, if there is mental criticism arising in your mind, be aware of it. Okay, if you can, try to pay attention. If you can, try to override it. Okay, if you cannot, just step back. Okay, or get away from the room, or let it out in some form or the other, and then go back and then say, okay, the next time it comes about, let me be more aware of it. Please remember, this brings about a very good thing that I always think about when it comes to mental dramas. Duryodhana actually told Krishna, he says, Bhagavan, I know what I'm doing is wrong. I know everything that I did is wrong. Okay, but I have come to a stage where I know I don't have control over it. So for us, we are the Duryodhanas also. Okay, but we know, okay, because we are involved in all this, we know that we definitely can have control. Okay, so if it has not happened in the last Ekadashi, we have some more Ekadashis to follow. So let's be more aware of that, recognize the negativity, and hopefully we'll try to place a lid on it in the next forthcoming Ekadashi. All right. And then there was another question that says, on the Ekadashi day, I wrote a big check to a non-profit, but at the end of the day, it did not provide any satisfaction. And I'm not sure why. You should have been satisfied because you did a seva. Okay. And when you're doing a seva, whether it's writing a check, okay, there's absolutely no positive or negative feelings that should come about after writing a check and mailing it out. Okay. Now, if you felt guilty or if you did not get the satisfaction, it means that there was some kind of an expectation. There was some kind of an expectation of an award or reward or some kind of a recognition, or maybe you didn't receive the thanks that you were supposed to receive, or maybe you didn't receive the acknowledgement from the receiver. Maybe some of those things could be the reason why you felt dissatisfied. Okay, so that could have led to the dissatisfaction. Or maybe it's not, maybe you didn't want to receive an award or reward, or maybe you did not want to receive some kind of acknowledgement, and yet you were dissatisfied. So could it be, let me again put it this way, could it be that maybe writing a check is a noble gesture, but maybe you did not get involved with it? Because oftentimes what happens is, when you are engaged in selfless service, okay, if you spend your energy on it, that is, you're spending your time and you're spending your effort, which you're actually working on it. Okay, maybe that would help. Okay, because writing a check just involves putting amount and mailing it. Okay, there's not much energy involved. So a true selfless service, and I'm not saying that writing a check is not a selfless service. It is, but if you go back and look at the actual definition of selfless service, and this is defined by the psychologist and the psychiatrist, they say a true selfless service or a seva is somewhere where you actually get involved, you move, you spend some time, you spend some effort, okay, you spend some energy. Okay, so try doing that for the next Ekadashi, and maybe that will keep you in a better mood. All right. And then the next question was, I'm confused about what to eat. Despite sending those recipes, yeah, I did send, because some of you asked, so I sent some recipes. I was not sure what to prepare and eat. Oh, well, okay. I mean, maybe the recipes were confusing. Maybe you thought that you were supposed to eat only from those recipes. No, please, let's not, that was not the intention. I didn't send the recipes to tell you that is what you have to eat. Okay, because I did get a phone call actually from one of you saying that I cannot prepare those recipes. So that was not my intention, and I'm very sorry if that was what you concluded. The recipes were meant only because somebody said, it would help us to plan our meals. So if you have some recipes, please send us. So that's the reason why I send the recipes. It was not meant for you to stick to those recipes. Okay, so let me make it very clear. Don't worry about making any special meals. I know typically an Ekadashi day is, we always look back to what our forefathers, what our mothers, what our parents did. Okay, some of you will always say, we had sabudana khichdi for Ekadashi day, and why you're not talking about that. Some of you wrote to me saying that we were told to eat only fruit, so why are you not insisting on that? No, this is not about that. I'm not bringing in the religious aspect of it. I'm bringing about the wellness aspect. Okay, so the wellness aspect doesn't restrict only about sabudana khichdi or fruit meal. Okay, so this is not the time to worry about eating those special meals that your parents or your grandparents taught you. It's all about what you can eat, what you can prepare, what you can enjoy, and restricting the amount or restricting the number of, so either the amount or the number of meals that you can have. Okay, so don't worry about preparing something great. Think about what you prepared yesterday on a non-Ekadashi day. Maybe you had dal and chawal. Okay, so continue to have the same dal and chawal for Ekadashi day as well. But see if in that case, then because you're eating the same dal and chawal, maybe now you can restrict the amount that you're eating. Portion control. Okay, so play with that. So either you're restricting the number of meals or you're restricting the amount that you're eating. Okay, so don't worry about preparing any kind of special fast, what your parents taught you or what your grandparents taught you. No, we are not in that. We are not going in that direction, right? So don't get challenged by what to eat and all that. And then the next question was, I work in the healthcare sector and cannot avoid using the phone. So how do I restrict the phone noise? Well, again, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. Okay, you know better. Okay, you are all adults. I don't need to tell you how to restrict the noise. Um, but let me give you a good example. So a couple of years ago, I was in India. I had an invite from one of the famous, most leading institution on mental health. Okay, they had called me to. I still today I do not know the reason why they called me, but they called me to come and give a talk and to meet with the director of the institute. Okay, so I had a one long hour with the institute director, and the way the question that they were asking me, it felt as if I was being interviewed. Okay, and I'm not sure for what. But anyway, the fun part about the whole 1 hour process was this guy, this Niman's director, sorry, I don't want to name the name institute. It came out of my mouth. So this institute director, he had two phones with him. Okay, one was a personal phone, I guess, and one was a official phone. And the best part was each time I opened my mouth to answer, it just one of the phones would ring, and either it would ping or it would ring. And he had the audacity to take those calls, okay, which meant that our conversation was disturbed. So even though I sat there with him for 1 hour, probably we would have had maybe 10 or 15 minutes of conversation, didactic conversation. Okay. The rest of the time was spent on him looking at the phone each time it rang, each time it pinged. Okay. And he was smiling, he was replying, he was posting, he was forwarding. Okay. So that's what I meant. I meant that noise. Okay. Do you really have to do that? Okay. We get distracted so very often every day. The minute the phone rings, whether it pings or whether it rings, we immediately look down to see what exactly it is. And if it's I know we are so much into WhatsApp. We look into WhatsApp, we want to forward it, we want to put a thumbs up sign, we want to put a like sign. And if you don't do that immediately, the world is not going to come to crash. Okay, nobody's waiting for your reply. Okay, so that's what I meant by noise. And I didn't say total restriction. All I said was avoid the immediate jerk, the knee jerk response. All right. And then I know some of us have a habit of taking the phone with us into the bathroom. So can you avoid that at least for these 5 days? Okay. And by the way, the same thing with other social platforms like Facebook and X and WhatsApp and all the good morning messages, at least for these 5 days, if you have the habit of sending good morning messages, at least for these 5 days, stop sending it. Again, your friends are not going to worry about why you didn't send a good morning message, okay? Or, I have a friend every day morning at 3:30 India time, he sends these proverbial messages. I'm not sure whether he's really following it or not. It's like 3 levels of proverbs messages, okay? Five lines each. And he's been doing it for the last 3 years. Several times I've asked him, I said, do you actually follow them? Or do you just inadvertently, forward it to everybody else? Why do you do that? What pleasure does it give you? Do you even look at it? Okay. So, and if you have the habit of doing it, see if you can curtail that. All right. I did 2 meals in Ekadashi, 3 meals on 2 to 4 days, and 2 meals on Amavasya day. I noticed I was feeling more hungry. I did not give into snacking. Okay, that's good. I was feeling more hungry, had a good BM. I guess BM would be bowel movement, and slept well. Is it normal? Absolutely. I think this is a great feedback. Okay, you fasted. Whoever wrote this fasted on Ekadashi period, very good. It helps to maintain natural flow of fluids. It helps to digest your food very well. The very fact that you had very good sleep, please remember the reason why you were able to sleep well is because when you have sluggish digestion and sluggish elimination, the body has to put a lot of energy in that. Okay, which means then your mind is involved as well, which means you're spending a lot of energy there too, which means then you're going to have improper sleep as well. The very fact that you had good bowel movement and the very fact that you slept well, it indicates that your body and your mind was able to use that energy better in other forms. Okay, that's the reason why you have a peaceful mind, you're able to sleep better. And if you do that on a regular basis, that's what helps to keep a very good health and health at the level of mind, body, and emotions as well. Okay, so yeah, absolutely, continue doing that. There was another question. Okay, so that's all. I think we